Hello, sweet friend. My name is Micah, and in this video, I am going to show you how I cover notebooks in fabric. I just love the look and feel of fabric on my notebooks and journals. It just makes them so cozy and nice to touch. And it's an easy way to personalize notebooks. It's also a fun gift, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna show you how I cover my journal for next year, this Hobonichi Cousin, in this fabric, and I'm gonna take you along. So let's get started. In terms of materials, you don't need a lot of things for this project. You, of course, need some fabric. This is the fun part, in my opinion, picking out the fabric. And your piece of fabric doesn't need to be big. It only needs to be a little bit bigger than your notebook laying open flat. So that is not a lot of fabric in most cases, even with an A5. So it can be a little bit overwhelming to buy a full yard or a full meter of fabric. So I suggest trying to either find if you have any fabric in your stash still, or finding a store that sells half yards or half meters or fet quarters, because that's significantly less fabric. But then if you can't find that, or that is still overwhelming, I suggest keeping an eye out for fabric placemats or fabric napkins. So these are pretty cheap. I found this for, I think, under $4, and this is plenty. I mean, I could definitely cover an A5 notebook out of this. And this particular one, the fabric is pretty sturdy, but not too rough to cover a notebook in, I would say. And then similar as this, I think this was a napkin or a placemat. Really cool, has this sort of like denim look to it. So that can be a very cost-effective way to shop for fabric. And then if you have a good thrift store, this is a men's collared shirt. And I thought this fabric was so beautiful, so I used that to cover this notebook with. And this shirt had a little bit of stretch to it, but that still worked out just fine. I didn't have any problems with that. So that can be a very cool way to find unique patterns. And yeah, the bigger the size, of course, the more fabric you have. So that's really fun. And then similarly, what you could look out for in thrift stores are handkerchiefs or these like sort of scarves, I guess you would say. Now this one is one of my personal favorite scarves. I would never use this to cover a notebook in, but yeah, that could be another way to find really fun pieces of fabric that aren't too big. And then the only other thing you need is some sort of glue. I've had really good luck with this Mod Podge mat, as you'll see, that is very forgiving and easy to apply. And then I just use a brush to apply it. Now, Mod Podge dries pretty quickly, so you got to be a little bit careful with your brush and maybe not use your favorite brush because you can easily ruin that with it. Don't ask me how I know that. So yeah, that's all you need. And of course, a notebook that you want to cover. First step is to cut out the fabric. And I would like to mention now that I am an eyeball kind of crafter. I don't measure things, but I think everything turns out just charming this way. Maybe not perfect, but perfect enough for me. So I lay my book flat, and then I just kind of take 2 fingers width on all sides. And you can add a little bit more if you feel more secure, because there is another point during making this cover where you could trim off excess fabric. But I think I'm gonna just cut it right here. Sorry, friends, for the abrupt scene change, and as you can see, I already finished wrapping my Hobonichi Cousin in fabric. When I was watching back through the footage of me doing this, I realized a couple things that could be streamlined or could make the process a little bit easier. So here we are with another A5 notebook and another piece of fabric. And so I'm gonna walk you through the rest of the steps with this notebook right here. And as you can see, I cut the fabric. It's about 2 fingers width on either side. And so, yeah, we're ready to work with our glue. And before we apply any glue, I would suggest checking if your fabric is right side up, so that you don't glue it. If it has an orientation, that would suck if you had it the wrong way around. And so now I suggest putting glue on your front cover, in the front cover only. So we are not putting glue on the spine just yet. We're getting to that in the next step. So let's see if this is enough glue here. My brush is slightly stiff. This is my dedicated glue brush, so it works almost a little bit more like a spatula, but that is just fine. And if you're concerned about getting glue on your pages, you could put a little piece of paper between your cover and the pages so that you can catch any additional glue. I didn't do that with this one. This is a notebook that I have used for just a random notes and sketches, and so this is on its last leg anyway, so a little bit of glue won't hurt it. And so now you can take the fabric and pull it over and smooth it on and stretch it out. The nice thing about the Mod Podge is that it is somewhat flexible, and so you can smooth out any wrinkles and things like that as you go along. And I would suggest, of course, you need enough glue for good adhesion, but the more glue you put on, the stiffer the overall notebook gets and the stiffer the fabric feels. So that is something to keep in mind. And this Midori definitely warps a lot more than the Hobonichi did. And I guess we need a little bit more glue. So I'm just gonna put the glue directly, on the brush to go along the edge. I guess I was a little too careful there with the edge. Just like so, and we got a little on there. Yeah, so the fabric will stiffen up slightly with the glue. All right, so there's that. And now, the thing we need to take into consideration are 2 things. One is the corner. Of course, I could leave the fabric as is and glue this down and then glue that down. But that creates a bit of bunching, so you can cut into the corner before gluing down these inner flaps, which is what I decided to do. And the way I've been doing it, and I don't know why that is, I'm sort of going somewhat straight towards the corner, but then this one I'll leave a little bit, or cut a little bit at an angle. And that way I make sure that I don't have a little bit of paper peeking through. And so we're gonna do that with the other corner as well. So I'm just cutting, can you see? Yeah, somewhat. So I'm cutting one straight down towards the point, and then one at a little bit of an angle. So we have made the necessary cuts for the flaps on the book cover, but we also need to make some cuts for the book spine, because if you imagine now, if I was to glue this down, of course, I'm gonna get in trouble right here where the spine is. So what we need to do is to make 2 cuts the width of the spine. Oh, I don't think you can see. So, you know, if you put your book upright like this, we need a cut where the book spine starts and where it ends. And that creates this little tab of fabric, the width of the book spine, which we are going to glue where the spine is. And so it's neatly tucked away. And so then you don't have a raw edge right where the spine is. I guess I can show you on my finished book. There, you see that? There's no raw fabric edge, which is good because then it can't fray. So this is where maybe being a little bit neater would be helpful, just simply because it prevents you from not cutting far enough or not cutting too much fabric, and then you leave parts of the spine exposed. So this is of course a little tricky if you just have 2 hands. I guess you could also just measure the book spine. So I'm just taking a fabric marker. I guess you could also use pencil or something that isn't gonna bleed through your fabric. And I'm just gonna mark the width of the spine. And then I'm making 2 cuts. Trying to get as close to the book as possible. And as always with cutting, of course, you know, not cutting enough is more easily adjustable than cutting too much on the first go. Like so. Okay, so now we have this little fabric rectangle, and so this is going to be glued inside of here, and then we're gonna glue the spine, and then once we glue the back, we have a really neat edge right there over the spine. I hope this makes sense and you can see that well enough. Okay, so now we're doing that same thing up top, putting the book upright, and then marking the spine. I can manage. I'm sure there is an even more elegant way to do this, but so far I've found this to be very workable and without getting into millimeters and things like that. But feel free to also just take accurate measurements, of course. All right, there we have it. So now we can glue down our front flaps. And with this, you can see that now would be a time if you felt like you wanted to leave your fabric exposed right here. This would be a good time to neaten up any of these edges if you wanted to. Like I could shorten this and all kinds of things. And then, yeah, leave this exposed. In my Hobonichi, I opted to actually glue down the first page onto where the fabric is. So the fabric is completely hidden behind this paper. Of course, you could also, if you don't want to, you know, lose out on your first page, you could take some other decorative fabric and cut it to size and glue it over this, or decorative paper. You could add that too. The good news I guess, about covering this page is that you don't have to worry about spilling glue. So actually what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be fairly deliberate with putting my Mod Podge on. And even though my Mod Podge is the matte Mod Podge, once it dries, you can still kind of see sort of the little bit of the glue residue. So, you know, there's always gonna be a trace, if you will. And so gluing it over with paper helps with that. Just neaten it up. And I guess I probably have taken a little much, but oh well. Like I said, I'm not the neatest of crafters. And then I don't think it really matters which side you glue first. And then I always try to, yeah, pull it somewhat taut. And try to really smoosh it down. Okay, so I will need some more glue over there. And then pull this taut and smooth it down. And of course, I'm getting glue on my fingers. And then we need some glue on here, which will obviously go over top. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and put glue everywhere so that I can glue down my front page as well. I know this is riveting content, me putting the glue down, but I think with these kinds of things, sometimes it's really helpful to just see somebody go through it and really get a sense of what is happening. And especially with something like the Hobonichi, you're not, I mean, that is a very specific, very expensive notebook. And so that can be quite quite a choice to work with glue and work with fabric. Alright, and I think we need a little bit more glue here on this flap. And as you can see, I already, or I don't know if you can tell, but I already got Mod Podge on my mat. I guess I could have also gotten a little small dish or like a palette to put the Mod Podge on, and then I could just dip my brush in. I guess that would have been smart, so I don't create all this extra glue leakage. But yeah, there's that. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere there. I am also going to let this dry underneath a stack of books so that that'll take out the warping a little bit. Okay, so now we can address the spine. So I am going to put glue on the fabric first so that I can just flap over my little cuts here. And there you want to make sure that here you can still adjust a little bit, so you can be mindful that it is in line with the actual spine, if that makes sense. So don't push it in too far, or you're gonna have some of the book spine showing. So I think there's where it's good. And same here. Okay, and then some more glue where we just did the flappity flaps so that they get sticky. And then we can press down the spine. Yeah, I think that turned out pretty neat. Yeah, no book showing. There's a little bit, I could have left it a little bit longer, but yeah, personally I don't mind that too much. Yeah, but overall this is gonna be secure and won't fray, so that obviously is wonderful. All right, and then with the back, we're just doing the same thing as the front. I am going to just cover this in glue first, and then we're gonna cut in our corners so that we can turn it over. And as you can see, these Midori books, though I love the look of that vanilla minimalism, they do get really dirty. But you know, I throw this in my bag, and you know, it's laying on my desk with all my art supplies because I did some sketching in here as well, so that's no wonder that that got dirty. Oh, that was a little much there. Wipe that off real quick. Yeah, I'm surprised of how much this is already, or how quickly this buckles. Definitely the Hobonichi covers are a bit more sturdy. And then pressing it down again, making sure that's really adhering well. Oh yeah, that you can feel how damp that is. I guess I also used quite a bit of glue. And here, I guess there's a little bit of a, if this was vinyl, there would be an air bubble, but that's okay. And we can open that up. And then again, I'm gonna cut into the corner. And as I said, I like the, just cut one more or less straight, and then one a little bit at an angle. To the other corner as well. Angle. Straight. That way we don't have too much bulk, but we're also not cutting off too much and the corner is exposed. And then again with our glue going all the way around. Whoops. Ensure that it's covered enough for the width of the flaps. And then some. Wow, this is coming up a little bit. Yeah, it's really tricky to put on glue if the surface is warping so much. Very interesting. I did not expect that. Really bouncy. Okay, now I'm pulling this as much as I can upward, and then pulling this nice and taut. And then of course we need a little bit of glue over top of that fabric, like so. And then going over this as well, since I'm going to put the paper over top again. And pulling this. I guess I could wait with going over the fabric until I have this flat glued down, because of course I'm gonna need some fabric on here as well. And then getting into the corners. Okay. And then taking my last page. Really pressing that down. Yeah. I think that's good. All right, and then here we have some little stragglers, so we can cut carefully. But yeah, those corners are looking really neat. I think the paper is coming off here, so we need a little bit more glue back here. Getting glue all over the place, of course. But all right, I think this is good to go to set aside and let dry underneath a stack of books. And with my Hobonichi, I definitely let it dry overnight because, yeah, I could still feel some dampness even after a couple hours. But yeah, this is looking pretty good. Some of that paper is a little wrinkled, I suppose, but that might just go away with time. But yeah, that's the glue part. I hope if you give this way of wrapping your notebooks in fabric a try, that it turns out well for you. I am definitely a fan now of doing this. I think it's just such a nice way to, yeah, get something really unique and cozy. You can also do this same technique with TNs, and then you don't even really have to worry all that much about the spine, even though you can still create those little tabs that you hide inside your spine area. But yeah, really, really sweet. And I think I said it before, this could also be such a nice way to create unique gifts for people and use up smaller pieces of fabric. And speaking of smaller pieces of fabric, if you have offcuts like these would make really fun junk journaly tabs inside a notebook. So you can definitely do some fun things with these, or collect a lot of them and then glue them onto a piece of cardboard and turn it into a book cover, not a book cover, yes, what's the word where you mark where you are in a book? A bookmark. Yes, you could do all kinds of fun things with the scraps. Yeah, there you have it. I hope that made sense, and leave me questions down below if I can answer or clarify any of the steps. And I hope you have a lot of fun with this. Yeah, all right. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy journaling!